Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This is going to be a two-parter. This is a video that I've been meaning to do for a long time. It's when I answer some questions. I've been getting questions over the last couple of years, and I've always said, well, I'll make a video and I'll answer these questions. I just never got to it. But I still had them saved, or I wrote them down somewhere. And, I don't get a whole lot of questions, but I thought it would be a pretty interesting video to make. So I'll make a two-parter. I'll answer half of them in this video and half in part two. All right. So this one I have to wear my glasses because I wrote them all down and I can't see too far without my glasses. So anyway, we'll start off with number one. And some of these questions, they might have come from YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. They've come from a bunch of different places, a couple emails every now and then. So that's where all these questions come from. And I don't think I even got them all, but I tried to get as many as I could. Like I said, it's been a couple of years. So number one, do you talk to other YouTubers? And which ones have you met? That's a two-parter. I don't talk to as many YouTubers as I used to. I think we've all been busy, or sometimes I've gotten busy and I haven't been able to follow up with a couple of people. But every now and then I'll chat with Nick, and even less frequently, an occasional email to Dr. Von Chill. I used to talk to him, a little bit more, but times have changed where I'm so preoccupied with so many other things. Unfortunately, I'm not able to keep lengthy conversations as I used to, since I've been really busy with school and all of that. But I hope to change that sometime soon. But I also talk to Patrick Luther Manning on occasion, not as often as we used to. Remember we used to have the show a couple of years ago, and we obviously talked more back then, but not as much. I occasionally text Mike, if he has a certain book or whatever, and some other things, Patrick's friend Mike. And that's really it. And occasionally I'll hear from Herc, who used to have a channel, or Andoni used to have a channel called Herc Collects Comics. Occasionally I'll talk to him. Every now and then I'll text Tony Toth, but not really a whole lot of people. But it's always nice to see some of these people whenever I go to a con, and I haven't been going to a con as of late. Which ones have you met? The first part of the question was which ones you talk to, because sometimes you make relationships through Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and you don't necessarily meet them. Like I said, I talked to Nick and I haven't met him yet. But then there are some that you actually meet. This one I have to flip the page over because I wrote down a bunch of people that I met. So which YouTubers have I met? Well, I met quite a few. Hopefully I'll get to all of them in this question. Sometimes I forget a few, and this is, unfortunately, that's the way it is. But I've met Patrick. I remember I met him a few years ago, and I've met Mike. I mentioned them earlier. I met Andoni, who used to have his channel, Herc Collects Comics. I met Vince Semperfi. He doesn't do comic books anymore. He does something else, but he used to be in the community. He was a great guy. I really liked talking with him and meeting up with him at cons. I met all of the New York Warriors. It's a whole group of them. Guys like Erod, Biggie, Manny, and I think I met... his name is Jeff Johnson, I believe, and I think I met Marky. I might have met those guys only once, but I've met others, so forgive me if I don't remember all the names, but I've met, I think, all of the New York Warriors, which is always cool. I met Tony Toth, met A.G. Surfer when he went to the East Coast Comic Con, I think it was over a year ago, and he flew in from California. It was nice to meet him. I made it a point to go up to see him, because the next guy I met, Murph, Amazing Murphinator, said, hey, A.G. Surfer's down there. So knowing that he comes from California, I wanted to go up to him and say, hey, how's it going, and all that stuff. So I met Murph, Mike, really, I've enjoyed meeting him. Met Gotham Comics, Julian. I met him several times, and he's another one that I talk to every now and then, not often. Again, like I said, everyone has their own lives that sometimes makes us a little less social than what we used to be. Met Jimmy C a couple of times, And that's all I wrote down. That's all I can remember right now. But I'm pretty sure I met a few others that I just slip in my mind. So forgive me if I didn't mention your name. Um, and this is not part of this question, but this was another question I got at some other time, so I'll answer this one next. Are there any YouTubers that you'd like to meet? Well, yeah, sure. There's quite a few I'd like to meet, and I'm not going to be able to go through the entire roster of people that I would like to meet at a con and all that stuff. But out of the ones that I didn't mention that obviously I met, one that I would like to meet probably that's in the States, because there are quite a few people that I'd like to meet across the pond, like Ed and Russell and a few others. Richard. I mean, they know who you guys know. They know who they are, but that doesn't seem very likely, And of course, I'd like to meet Errol, who's in Australia, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But yeah, there's quite a few. But stateside, the one that I could think of, well, there's a couple, but the one that comes to my mind first that I would like to meet, that I would like to make possible one day, hopefully sometime soon, is Nick. He's in Florida, and maybe one day when we take James down to Disney World, when things become a little safer, when it comes to the virus and all that stuff. And I'm still not convinced that it's safe to go down, but that's just me. But I would like to meet him. Of course, I would like to meet Dr. Von Chilla. That would be great. That would be a bonus. Definitely a bonus to meet him. And there's definitely several others, but those are the guys that I wouldn't mind meeting. I guess that was question 2. I'll try to do 6 or 7 questions, and I'll save the rest for another video, because I don't want this to be a terribly long video, just me yakking, answering questions that some of you may not, be that interested in hearing about, but I think it's interesting. I guess this is number 3. Now we'll get to some comic books. Do you think the comic bubble will pop? I'm the wrong person to ask. I have my own theories on that, but I don't think my theories are necessarily ones that hold weight compared to others that have more sensible, logical answers to this question that are in the community. The quick answer is yes, I do think it's going to pop with certain books, but with other books, I don't think so. I think some of the big Silver Age books like Amazing Fantasy 15 and some others like X-Men #1, although they may show signs of going down a little bit, I don't think they're going to go back to what they were a year, 2 years ago. I think those days are over. Some of the books, I think maybe a couple of the moderns and a few others along the way, even some silvers, they might pop, because I don't think they might hold their weight long enough. Let's say, for instance, the first appearance of High Evolutionary, or the first appearance of maybe Ares, stuff like that. Although they will hold a significant amount of value for sure, I just don't think they're going to hold that much interest, that much weight, that much value as time goes on. But I could be wrong. That's why I said at the beginning of this question, I'm not necessarily the best person to ask for it, unfortunately. Go down. Next question. Where can I get an Amazing Fantasy for cheap? This was a question that was asked to Nick a few years ago on when he used to have the Sunday live chat. And someone asked this to me about it maybe a year ago or whatever. And Amazing Fantasy didn't reach its record price back then, as it like it did a couple of weeks ago. But even back then, it was a pricey book. So where can you get an Amazing Fantasy 15 for cheap? I'll give you the same answer that Nick gave on that show 2-3 years ago, whenever it was. Nowhere. Unless you take advantage of some older person that's got a bunch of books and they don't know what they are, and you can feel good about yourself doing that, then that's up to you. But I would say that's the only place, or the only situation where you'll be able to get that book for cheap. All right? Or if you find it in an antique store and they don't know what they have and all that stuff, that's the only place. There's no place you're going to go to find that cheap. There's no dealer that's going to give you a massive deal I think right now a 3.0 copy is well over, it's close to maybe, what, 35 to maybe $40,000. You know, there's no deal where that's going to give you a 3.0 or a 2.0 for half that, or take a quarter of the price off. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. And if it does happen, that is an extremely rare situation. So unfortunately, that may not be the answer that those of you that really would like to get an Amazing Fantasy want to hear. The best thing that you can do, that what I did a few years ago, is I would just unload some of the stuff that you don't really think is worth holding on to. I know we fall in love with the comics that we have, but I would get rid of a lot of the stuff that you can maybe get again at another time that might be affordable or even cheaper, if you think they might be cheaper, to get that bigger book, whether it's an amazing, and in this case, an Amazing Fantasy. That's what I would do if I were you. But unfortunately, no, there's nowhere you can get it cheap, I don't think. Next question. Who is your favorite person in comics you met? Well, I haven't really met too many people in comics. You know, I was never really the autograph type to go up to people and, you know, ask for their autograph. I've met several good ones, not a lot, but I've met several good ones, like Stan Lee. He was nice enough. He smiled at me. But I would think that Neil Adams, you know, I heard a lot of things about Neil Adams that some people didn't like, but he was very nice to me. I met him at Zap Comics a week before my son was born. And, you know, he was nice, friendly, everything. I think he was friendly to everybody. And he would joke around with you. So I would say that was probably my favorite person. I also met Chris Claremont when I came back to the hobby. He was very friendly to me. It's funny. I heard about it years ago when I first started collecting. Back in '93, I was talking to that guy. If you watch my history of comic collecting, that guy that was helping me collect, he said he didn't like Chris Claremont. He said he met him and he just wasn't very nice. But you flash forward almost 2 decades later, or a little over 2 decades later, I think, I met him, and I thought he was really nice, very friendly, sociable, man, laughing, all that stuff. So it's interesting. Next question. I'll do 2 more, and then I'll end this video, and then I'll do a part 2 that will be released at a later date. What autographs do you have? Again, I haven't met too many people, although as of late, I am starting to get a little more interested in getting some autographs. Okay, but for the ones that I have, I wrote them down because, you know, I had to write them down. I have Neil Adams because, like I said earlier, I met Neil Adams. I got a few of his, signatures on some books. I got Chris Claremont, like I mentioned earlier. I have Frank Miller. I have James O'Barr, whom I met. Frank Miller I didn't meet. It's just a book I bought that came with Frank Miller's autograph. But I did meet James O'Barr, and I had him sign Crow #1. I got Stan Lee. Although I don't have the book that Stan Lee signed when I met him, I was able to get a Stan Lee autograph recently over the summer with the Fantastic Four, because I wanted Stan Lee back in my collection. It didn't really matter what book it was. I just wanted Stan Lee's autograph. But I did meet him, and I have his autograph, and I have a Jack Kirby. Not bad, right? But I don't really talk too much about autographs on my channel. I don't really showcase them. If I get a new book and it has an autograph, obviously I'll say it has an autograph. See, here's such and such's name. But I don't really talk too much about it. It's not that big of a deal. But even though this wasn't asked, some autographs that I would like to get, I would love to get. There's quite a few, but I would love to get Alan Moore. That's one that I would really like to get. Am I a big Alan Moore fan? Not particularly, but I like him, you know, enough to really want to get his autograph. But I would also love to get Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, a few others. But at the top of the list for me would definitely be Alan Moore, of signatures that I don't have. Sure, I would like to get a Steve Ditko, but I think those are few and far between. I don't think there are too many of them, but maybe there are, and I don't know. You can correct me in the comments. And the last question for this video, it's another two-parter, and I put it together from a couple of different questions that I got and just figured out how to answer it in just one one big answer. Would you ever sell your collection? You know, if you've watched my channel over the years, I probably would have said no. But times change, and it depends. It really depends. I'd like to leave it to my son, not because he would have interest in continuing with the collection, although he has shown some interest. I leave it to him so he can do what he wants with it and sell it, and he can keep the money that he gets from it. That's why I want to leave it. It's not because I'm like, okay, now, James, I'm expecting you to continue the tradition of collecting comics and all that stuff. I couldn't care less if that's what he wants to do. The only thing I care about is that he gets the fruits of the collection. That's all. All right? So that's one of the reasons why I'd say no right now, but you never say never. And another, I got a couple of these. Would you ever consider selling me your EC collection or your Batman collection? My answer is, if I decided to, again, like I said, I'm leaving it all to my son, but if I decided to sell those particular books, you'd have to get on a long line because you're not the only one asking. And that's where I'm going to end this video. I'll do another video answering the rest of the questions. So I enjoyed doing this. I enjoyed answering some of these questions, and I apologize for not answering them. For those of you that asked over the years that follow me on Instagram or YouTube and haven't really answered these questions over the years, I apologize. It was always my intent to do a video on it, and now I just figured, well, here it is. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any other questions, you could always continue doing what you're doing by asking on different social media sites. Take care.